Hey, I'm Pat, and in this video we'll be going over special data types and what they are, how to use them, whatever. So a special data type is basically just more data types. So if you remember in the video where we went over variables, we talked about like numbers, booleans, and strings. I just blanked out. Numbers, booleans, and strings, those are all data types, but there's also a lot more that Roblox added in to allow you to set properties that don't fit those standards really. So if you go into workspace and you just look at the base plate and you can check its properties, you can see there's reflectance, which is just a number, and there's transparency, which is just a number, and there's cast shadow, which is just a checkbox. The checkbox is the same as a boolean, true or false. But you can also see there's things like color and Brickcolor and position, size. All these things, they aren't, obviously they aren't strings, they're not numbers, they're not booleans, so they're all have their own respective data types. There's different ways that you define these data types and use them, so that's what I'm going over now. So first one I want to go over is a vector 3. A vector 3 is used in like many different ways for many different things, right? Vector 3 is basically, you can think of it as like, I'm sure you know of graphs as far as like an X and Y graph, which is two-dimensional, but Roblox Studio is obviously three-dimensional. So the way we store those 3 dimensions is in a vector 3. The vector 3 has 3 dimensions. The first one would be X, middle one would be Y, and the last one would be Z, so X, Y, and Z. And X would be side to side, Y would be up and down, and Z would be forward and backwards, right? So the way we make a vector 3 is we just access the vector 3 library, or I guess it's a library, right? And then we say that we're making a new one, and then we just put our 3 vector 3 values in here. So the first one is the X, the second one's the Y, and the third one would be the Z. So we'll just do that, and obviously you give it with a comma separating it, because this is a function you're calling basically, and you're passing it these 3 arguments to make your vector 3 value. Now what we can do is we can make a reference to a part. Here, I'll add a part to workspace real quick, right? And you can make the part, or here, I'll make the reference to the part. Like scatterbrained right now, it's fine. So we'll take our part and we'll set its size to the vector 3, and that's because when we go into the properties, right, we can look down and we can see what it is. So we can see that the size has 3 values, right? And then once we click on this little arrow here, we can see it goes down and it has X, Y, and Z, which is telling us that it's a vector 3, right? So you can look at it and you can tell that the property is a vector 3, and it will only accept the vector 3 value. That's the only thing you can give it in order to modify it or change it. So go ahead and run it. You'll see that its size should change the vector 3 size. So now if we click on it in here, we can look at and see 313, which is what we defined in our variable, right? So that's how a vector 3 works. Pretty not too complicated. There's you can do math with vector 3 stuff like that. It's not really something I'm going over in this video. Yeah, I'm just wanting to go over like what the data type is and how it works, right? So the next one we'll go over is a color, and we do define it in a similar way we do a vector 3, but there's multiple ways you can make a color. You can use RGB, HSV, hex. So you can also use new. I don't really know how to use new, but usually you just use RGB, and once you put that in, you can manually give it values. An RGB value would be like 0 to 255, and obviously it's in order of RGB, so the first one would be red, and green, and then blue, right? But another way is when you do it, you click inside these parentheses, and you can see this little color wheel here. Click on that, it opens like a new window, and you can pick a color. And kind of like blue, we're gonna go with blue. So we do that and we hit OK, and it automatically fills in our color values, so that way we don't really need to like manually type it out. And you see when we click inside the parentheses, it also gives us a preview of what the color looks like. right? Now what we can do is, I deleted my part reference for some reason, but we can take our part and we can set its color to the color that we defined, right? Now we look inside the part, you can see there's multiple different, there's two different types of colors in here. You see there's color and there's brick color. Obviously brick color is not taking an RGB value, but color 3 is. You can see it has, you know, 3 values, and max would obviously be like 255 because it's color 3. And brick color is obviously different. So once you run this, you can see its color changes to the color that we gave it. Pretty self-explanatory. And then the next one I wanted to go over is an enum. So an enum is a lot of different things. It stores like so many different types, but basically it kind of has like a preset list of types that it can be. So like for material, for example, right? A material, you can see once you do enum.material, you get access to all these different materials, and these are the only materials you can really use, right? Because it's preset to the material. So it's all these materials in here. You can, you know, pick whatever material and you can use it. I'll just use rock because that's long, but you can tell it's an enum when you look in the properties by just like clicking on it, and you can see it's kind of like a drop down menu and there's multiple different options. It's kind of like a little list that it shows up, and it's not really like a number or a string. Instead it's just kind of like a list of choices. And now what we can do is, you know, similar thing is we can set the parts.material to the material that we defined in our value, in our variable enum. So we run it and you'll see its texture changes to the material that we gave it. Kind of looks like a rock, I guess. A blue rock. Doesn't really make sense, but it's okay. And I guess I'll go over brick color as well. Brick color is kind of similar to color, or it's actually kind of similar to enum in the sense that you can only pick certain colors. So it's kind of self-explanatory how these types work. You know, you just type the name of the type and then you can, you know, pass it whatever. And with brick color, we just do brick.color.new, and in here, you know, we put quotation marks, and you'll see it went away. It automatically fills in like all of these different colors, and these are the only brick colors you can use. You have to use like a name that matches these, or else it's not gonna be a valid brick color. That's because, you know, when you click here, it gives you like this wheel with all these preset colors. So we can if I can find a decent color, we'll just do the light orange, and we'll do we can do part brick color equals our brick color. So once we run that, we can see we got like actually not too bad of a rock color, but you can see it changed to our light orange color that we gave it. And once we click on it, we can see it's obviously light orange. So that's how brick color works. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I really needed to go over for this video. Last thing I guess what I would do is give you like something to make on your own. So basically what I'll give you is like something to make. So what I'm going to ask you to do is like similar to the last video, how we made like the transparency like smoothly change. I'm gonna ask that you like make your part slowly grow. No real like, you don't have to make it grow a certain way or anything. You can just make it like slowly grow smoothly. Obviously you're probably gonna be using a loop of some kind. That's the idea. You don't use a loop, you know, it's up to you. Doesn't matter. Yeah, so go ahead and do that, and pause the video, do that, whatever. Show you my solution in like 2 seconds. Alright, so I'll go ahead and make my solution. Obviously there's gonna be like 20 different ways that you can do this, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure my part's anchored, which means that it won't move. Gravity won't affect it. And I'll make it, give it a small size of 111. we'll leave it there. And what we'll do is we'll make our reference to the part. Workspace that part. And then we'll make a for loop. And we'll give it a control variable, I equals. We're gonna start at 1. And we'll make it go up to like 3. And we'll go by like 0.1. Kind of like the last time. It works, so we'll do it. Obviously, there's a much better way to do this. I don't recommend using for loops in like actual code, but you know, it's just like something to do for this, right? Whatever, it's something to do for this. So now what we'll do is we'll take our part and we'll take its size and then we'll set it to our new vector 3, which will be our I. And once we run it, actually wait, I didn't add a task that way to make it smooth. I'll add a task that wait at the beginning too, just to make it so it doesn't happen like right away. You do that, and you can see it grows. Cool. And I mean, we can also do something like that with its position, like part dot. Just as example, obviously position takes a vector 3 as well. And we'll set it to 1 by default. And we'll go in here. And we'll add it in this. I'll add a little bit longer wait because it happened a little too fast. You go and run it, and you can see it kind of teleports it to the position we gave it to, and then kind of grows up. Kind of like we told it to in its script, right? So that's pretty much it for this video. Next video we'll be going over methods, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this is helpful.